What's up, winning team, and welcome back, everybody. This is day 8. Today we're going to be looking at the Scientology billionaire contract. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you know we love a contract on this channel. If you didn't know that, I have a whole contracts playlist. This will be going in there as well. I like to review contracts, guys, with you all so we can see, because I really believe that the evil powers in this world love to snag us by getting us into contracts that we can't get out of. Case in point being so many of the stories of people who have walked away from Scientology or tried to, but have been held by this billionaire contract. And I'm going to give you guys an explanation as to why I believe it is like this. So before we get into it, what are we going to do? So there's so much to say here. You guys know how it works on my YouTube channel. I just tell you all the extra stuff that I think other people haven't said, because I'm like, they didn't even say this. Is so much to talk about. So we're going to start off with the fact that this contract is for the C organization. It does not say Scientology, it says C organization. So that for me is red flag number 1. Why are we signing a contract if we're joining into Scientology or Dianetics, but we're signing the C organization contract? This goes back to something I said that I think some of you guys think I was Looney Tune losing my mind when I was talking about all this stuff to do with things in the C. Why are we signing a contract with the C? What are we making a covenantal agreement with? Because, guys, as I've said before, one of the ways that the kingdom of darkness works in this world, and I've given you guys so many examples on this channel, is by getting us into these contracts that we haven't really thought about and we don't really understand. I always use the example of these Hollywood contracts where people get signed into contracts in Hollywood thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're still in the buzz and honeymoon phase of something new, something that seems like everything you've been waiting for, something that seems like everything you need. But unfortunately, by the time you signed the contract, you didn't read the fine print. You didn't pay attention to the fact that the contract was actually saying that you're signing this for the C organization, not Scientology. Why is that? Well, we're going to come back to that. Let's read what the actual contract says. So the contract actually says, I, so on and so forth, your name you would sign, do hereby agree to enter into employment. So this is interesting. Employment, that's the first thing we should point out. So they are also talking about, which we know from even, is it Aaron Smith Levin, that he was working as a Scientologist. So his mom brought him into Scientology when he was 4 years old. He was working from as young as 12 years old into an employment with the C organization. So here it goes, something that I've said before. I just said in the Revelations video. It's so weird how the videos to do but what I'm reading in Revelations is matching up with this other videos that I'm making about Scientology and stuff. But I was saying in the video I was reading the book of Revelations, I was saying that what the kingdom of darkness does, one thing that about God being 100% fair is that God has made it so that even the powers that be, even the evil in this world, has to fairly put all of the information in front of you, so that even when you make the wrong decision, you cannot say, I did not know. That's why even in the Bible, it will say that any sins that you've committed that you didn't know were sins will not be held against you, because God is a just and fair God. This is part of the justice, ladies and gentlemen. The justice being, wow, sorry, there's all these fireworks going off. It's bonfire night. The justice being that we are given the opportunity to read and assess these contracts for our very selves. So then when the other side of it, we cannot necessarily say that, oh no, because this was our opportunity to really delve deep, to ask the questions. Because my question would be, as somebody being initiated into Scientology, if you will, would be, well, why am I signing a contract for the C organization? Okay, so with the C organization, employment. So we've already agreed to employment, right? I thought this was all about, helping to free you from your reactive mind, blah, blah, blah. What happened to that? Because now that we're signing a contract, all of a sudden it's become about employment, number 1. So what am I employed to do and what am I doing? I'm signing to do this for an extended period of time, which we're going to come back to. And on top of that, I'm signing this for the C organization. Who is the C organization? Because we've been talking about Scientology. Maybe tomorrow we should delve into who is the C organization. I did talk about who is the C order, an earlier video in this series, but and being of a sound mind. So you're signing that you're of a sound mind. This is another thing, another absolutely stellar performance of them in protecting themselves legally, because now you can't go and say, oh, well, I wasn't in my right mind when I signed this, because you signed this saying that you were in a sound mind. Which I find to be completely nuts, because it reminds me of the Bible scripture that says God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So the idea is that whatever you're agreeing to, you can't double back in the future and say, oh, I was going through something, or this was tough, or whatever. No, you made this agreement when you had a sound mind. Remember that. Do fully realize and agree to abide. Fully realize. Fullness, which again, I've spoken about the vagueness in contracts. I talked about this with you guys when we did what was it? We did the X Factor contract, the America's Got Talent, all those contracts. I talk about the vagueness in a lot of these contracts that we've covered, and how they use this vague terminology so that you signing it, whatever your perception of what that means in the moment, is what you're going to be signing. But what you haven't considered is what they mean when they're getting you to sign that, because as soon as you've signed it, once again, now they can take that and use that against you. They can say whatever they want now with that and just put it under these vague terminologies. And do you know how I know that this is a thing, guys? This is why so many contracts today are so long, because people have fought back over certain contracts or ways they've been taken advantage of. So now a lot of contracts are long because companies have had to figure out ways to cover all their bases and cover all the different things and specify everything that you're signing for in order to protect themselves, right? So that's why even like when we were looking at the X Factor and America's Got Talent contracts and everything like that, people, the crazy stuff people would have to agree to sign just to enter the competition. Remember, this was just to sign up into the competition. Is that you sign these contracts in order so that some of the stuff they would have in there would be like, you, as soon as you sign this, you cannot speak on anything that goes on between you and the judges and the production and whatever. Like, you're immediately signing away your silence as far as anything of your experiences that are going on, which means if you speak out, then you are now going to be in violation of your contract, and all sorts of things are going to happen. I've spoken about this at length in the contracts playlist, guys, so go and check it out. So that's why there's a lot of people in a lot of scenarios, also probably in Scientology, who can't speak out because they've signed these types of very calculated contracts that are keeping their mouth shut, right? So yeah, so that's why that's another huge thing. Then abide by its purpose, which is to get ethics in on this planet and the universe. Ethics in and on this planet and the universe. So again, guys, here's what I'm saying. We're being pulled in by what? Oh, come do a free personality test. Figure out about yourself. We just want to help you remove your reactive mind. We just want to help you remove your reactive mind so that you can live freely, with clarity, and comfortable in your environment and your surroundings, knowing how you're going to progress in this lifestyle, right? In this life that we're all living. But I'm not seeing anything about that in this contract. So far, I've seen employment. So far, I've heard of the C organization, which has nothing to do with Scientology, nothing to do with Dianetics, other than the video that I made to do with the special order, who are considered the highest ranking or whatever in the C, whatever. You guys have to check out that video. I can't even remember. Imagine I can't already remember. This is how I am. This is why I have to rewatch my own videos sometimes to remember what I said. You're of a sound mind. So you're saying all of this with a sound mind. You agree to fully realize and agree and abide by its purpose. Bearing in mind, the purpose has not been stated. So therefore, whatever the purpose is of the C organization, I'm not a professional in law, but they can, if they change that purpose, you've already agreed to whatever this purpose is that is not specified. Again, when signing contracts, these are the types of things that people should be comfortable saying to somebody else, can you go and get this clarified in writing on the contract, what this means, right? And one thing I find fascinating about this contract is one of the shortest contracts ever. When I saw the size of this contract, I thought it was going to be long. Most contracts today are long because of the reasons I've suggested already. They have to cover all their bases. They have to specify, clarify so many different things, just like if you guys have applied for a job, just like if you guys have applied for housing and stuff, when you sign the contracts, if you do it, with the contracts and stuff, there's a lot of things that have to be covered so that when certain things happen, there is a strategy and a plan and an agreement between between all of the parties involved of exactly what's going to happen. So now we're talking about the ethics on this planet and universe. So here again, we're seeing a little sprinkling in, a little hint to the fact that Scientology very much is to do with this out of the universe stuff. Because why is it relevant to mention in this planet and universe? Again, you at this moment might not be thinking so deeply about the universe. This is what I mean about the kingdom of darkness will take advantage of our ignorance, so much so because you, in your ignorance, in our modern day ignorance, we don't believe in things in the spiritual world. We don't believe in things that are like aliens and all that stuff that these guys talk about. I mean, I don't believe in aliens, but I do believe in demonic beings that present themselves in the flesh, if you know what I mean. In some way, shape, and form. So because we don't believe in this stuff, when we sign this stuff, and this is what I'm saying, guys, when you sign this stuff, because you're thinking that stuff is like, oh, you don't believe in that, you don't consider that there's a reality that you're going to have to do anything to do with that, because you're already not conceiving that idea in your mind because you don't believe in it. But then this is exactly how the kingdom of darkness uses our ignorance to our own will, because now we all know that people then are being told that they need to, that really we as humans, according to Scientology, came from a planet 75 million years ago and were kicked off this planet by a galactic overlord called Xenu, and we are all Thetans who came from there, and that we have, as Thetans are on Earth, we're spiritual beings, but we messed something up, which is another vague thing that we messed up, and so that's why we don't have the fullness of our spiritual power, which is why we need to remove this reactive mind situation that we've got going on. But then, as we now know, as we go further, it turns out there's not only are we Thetans with all this stuff attached because of our painful traumatic memories. Once again, the kingdom of darkness loves to cause us pain and trauma and then weaponize the pain and trauma. This is what the kingdom of darkness does. It causes the pain and trauma and then it weaponizes the pain and trauma. And we're going to talk about this as a separate thing in another video, where I'm going to talk about how similar this whole concept of Thetans is, and having these things in your reactive mind is to the concept of demonic possession. It's actually the same exact theory in a skewed different type of way, but we'll talk about that in another video. So this is what they're presenting you with, right? It's very interesting, isn't it? In the planet and universe. So we know now that maybe whether you've been told that or not, you've just been sold, as I was. I went there. I went through the little process. Yes, we go get our graph done. And what I want to point out, which is quite funny, and the person that I was with, we both did the test, and it was actually quite funny because our experiences are very different. And the funny thing was, is that the person I was with who was assessing the graph, got very upset when this question came up, very upset when she asked about this billion-year contract, because it was like, oh, well, she got very defensive. And I just find it funny because, again, classic kingdom of darkness, when they get spotted out on something that's completely heinous, reacts negatively and aggressively to defend themselves, right? Just thought of something else I'm not even going to say, because we're not coming for other belief systems in this video. So again, planet and universe, and fully. So again, fully is not specified, fully as far as they're going to require of you, so you don't even know what that is yet. And without reservation, subscribe to the discipline, mores, and conditions of this group, and pledge to abide by them. So the discipline, mores, and conditions of this group, and pledge to abide by them. So again, we haven't specified what those things are. For me, signing a contract like this, or with these types of terms, those things better be specified in plain English, or whatever language it is that you're signing the contract in. So you saying discipline, mores, and conditions is a very, very vague, once again, thing, which, once again, as humans, if you've gone through the personality test, you've had your graph read, we're all feeling warm and fuzzy now, because we feel like there's hope to deal with all the pain and trauma that we've gone through, which we've all gone through, right? And now you're thinking this is a great thing. They're like, come and join this team. This is another thing that the Kingdom of Darkness weaponizes about us as humans, is our wanting to be a part of a group, or a part of some kind of team, or like family or community, right? Because it's a good thing. It's something God created. He created us to have community. He created us to want to have community. He created for us to thrive in community, right? He created for us to thrive in community. But that's something that the Kingdom of Darkness uses against us, because I even talked about this when I talked about Pride, which I did an 1.5-hour video about Pride, which I'm really proud of that video, because I did a lot of studying, not just the Bible, but I also looked into philosophical theories about pride. Historically, I also looked into like scientific theories and all sorts. So you guys should check out that video. It's a really good video. And so one of the things that I realized in that video was talking about how, you know, there's a thing that's attached to this type of pride where people just want to be a part of something, and because their identity becomes a part of the group that they're a part of, so their whole life they're lacking an identity, and so therefore being a part of a group becomes their identity. So it could, for example, someone like me, it could be the fact that I'm Black becomes the complete part of my identity, which means I have to make everything about me to do with the fact that I'm a Black person, because that is what's my identity, which then would mean that if I was to critique myself as a Black person or anything to do with Black culture, I'm going to resist that, because this is the identity. This is now my identity, not just a group or a community that I'm a part of. And so here again, discipline, mores, and condition of this group and pledge to abide by them. I think that's also something that reels people in. You're signing into something that you are now a part of, which if I go onto the website, let's read what the website has to, I wrote it down in my notebook. Bear with me 1 second. Where is it? Okay, let's read it from my notebook. So this is what I wrote in my notebook. I wrote this verbatim from the website as to what Scientology says about this contract. So the question was, on Scientology.org, and they're frequently asked questions, is it true that people in the C organization sign a billion-year contract? So here we go again, we're talking about the C organization. Isn't it funny how this is the actual thing we keep talking about? However, we keep referring to this whole thing as Scientology. Intelligent. This is by far one of the most intelligent forms of evil I have ever covered on this channel. So the answer was, the first C organization members formulated a 1 billion year pledge to symbolize their eternal commitment to the religion, and is still signed by all members today. Right? So they didn't say yes, but they did answer and yes. It is a symbolic document, which, now that for me finished me when I read that. What do you mean it's a symbolic document? It is a contract. It's not symbolic of nothing. It is a legal binding real life contract. Don't come to me with the nonsense about talking about symbolic, it's symbolic. No. And again, guys, look, because look, I'm looking at it. It's got date. Yeah, so it's got the date. You've got to put your date, just like any other contract, who it's signed by, and you've got to have 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses have to have signed it. Have the C organization perform the C org swearing in ceremony. So there's even a swearing in ceremony, right? We haven't even got to the other bit of the contract. There's one bit of the contract left that I haven't read. So no, this is not symbolic. This is a real life, real binding legal document, and this is absolutely a weaponization of the English language. Because let me tell you why I believe this is a weaponization of the English language. It's one of the reasons I believe English language is one of the most demonic languages. Because you could say that in the term symbolic could be perceived as, yes, it's a real contract, but it's just symbolizing something. But you might receive that information as, oh, this contract is just symbolic, right? Because none of us are going to be alive for 1 billion years. So why does it matter that I've signed something for 1 billion years? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that when we get to the end of this. So a symbolic document, which is similar to the vows of dedication in other, faiths and orders, serves to signing an individual's eternal commitment to the goals, purposes, and principles of the Scientology religion. However, there's nothing that says about the Scientology religion in the contract, because all it says is about the C organization. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we must move in this life with wisdom and with our eyes wide open, right? When we're encountering this type of stuff, because they're saying all this type of stuff as if to suggest we've got all these choices and it's all this fair, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, there's a lot of manipulation going on here. Let's be honest. So then let's get to the final bit of the contract that says, therefore, I contract myself to the C organization for the next 1 billion years, as per Flag Order 232, which I should have really searched that before I came. So then you've got the date, which you've got the person, you've got to sign on the date, you signed, then there's 2 signatures for the witnesses. And then it says, have the C org recruiter perform the C org swearing in ceremony. I wish I had paid attention to the fact it said that before. I didn't want to read into it too much because I wanted to be able to react as authentically as possible on camera, because that's what I prefer to do, just tell you guys things as the thoughts are coming into my mind. So what they're saying here is there's some kind of swearing in ceremony. So for something that's so symbolic, right, that's not supposed to be so whatever, it seems like there's a lot we've got going on here. And then there's still another signature of yours and the recruiter's signature afterwards as well. So it's a lot of signatures happening for a so-called symbolic thing that represents like the dedications that happens in other faiths and orders. A lot of the things that we're talking about here don't have legal binding contracts attached to them in other faiths. They are genuinely symbolic ceremonies. You see what I'm saying? Even if you do something like a baptism, for example, in Christian faith, not in the Catholicism, in Christian faith, a lot of people, when they get baptized or the children baptized, they do baptize them like in, you may get like a certificate or something, but it's more to commemorate the date. It's not like a signed contract that now you are signed to that you're, you know what I'm saying? So again, a little bit of a little bit of a taking advantage of the ignorance of others. This is why I think when I look at this stuff, I don't see this stuff the same way other people do. I'm not going to lie to you, because I'm like, yeah, this is not my first rodeo, pal. When it comes to religion, there's a lot of things that stick out to me that are not for others. So now let's talk about why these people would bother to make such a big, bold contract for 1 billion years. Right, 1 billion years. 1 second, let me just see if I can find something that I should have done before the video, but I didn't, because I didn't want to delay any further. So one thing that I've noticed anyways in reading the Bible, just in case I don't find what I'm looking for, is one of the things that I've noticed in the Bible is there's this running theme where God brings up to people that some of the things that they're going through, either he warns somebody that who has done something that if you continue in this behavior, it's going to affect the generations to come. Just so you know, your generations, your sons and daughters are going to go through this. And then the Bible also documents that. And also there are areas where the Bible refers to people praying to God, and he's like, hey, I would do this for you. I would support you in this, but your ancestors prayed for you to be in this. Your ancestors decided, yes. Okay. Your ancestors made the decision to partner with this. So I'm trying to see if I can find the verse real quick. Any of these verses. I know they're in the Old Testament. Oh, man. Anyway, the point being that there is the way we look at the world today, guys, is a lot of us have a very self-centered viewpoint of the world. We think about ourselves and then maybe as far as our grandchildren. God and the kingdom of darkness thinks generations ahead. Generations. And I've often used the example of the man William Lynch, who was one of the guys who had a whole thing where he wrote this long document that he explained to the slave owners of the transatlantic slave trade. I have the document. I can send it to somebody, guys. I have the PDF. It's like 27 pages long. And he goes through it and he explains how they're going to maintain slaves for 400 years. How they're going to maintain having slaves for 400 years. That man was not going to live more than a quarter of that experience, and yet had planned how they were going to continue this for 400 years. This is what I'm talking about. The kingdom of darkness is so intelligent to work that far ahead, to get us to be doing things that are going to affect those that far ahead. That's why when people talk about generational curses these days, I'm like, why are we talking about generational curses, guys? You're talking about generational curses while you're not even thinking about the fact that your decision making is going to affect all of the generations to come. Like, to the extent that even science has proven that even just on a DNA basis, that our behavioral traits do also pass through via DNA, is in changed behavior, not just the things that came in our DNA, but the things that we do does also pass in through our DNA. Of course, to me, that's just science's way of explaining something that we already know from God, right? And so my point here with all of this is saying that the kingdom of darkness is smart enough to know I'm sorry, I'm just seeing if they've got the verse, if I found the verse. I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't think I have. The kingdom of darkness and everything is planning for all these years in advance. So what I believe is that the Scientologists are smart enough to know this. L. Ron Hubbard, who for me is truly a very evil man, knows that we, again, in our ignorance, will sign this away thinking, oh, 1 billion years, that's just right, because they're like, it's symbolic of an eternal, what do you call it, an eternal commitment, right? This is eternal commitment. This is what I'm talking about. And then we ignorantly sign it thinking, oh, because this is why, I now understand, the more I delve into the Scientology, the more I see how L. Ron Hubbard truly must have observed humans, because all of his observations are the same observations I make of humans. That humans are quick to think that they know what they're doing, quick to sign things and agree to things that they haven't fully thought through. Right? Easily influenced when in a place of vulnerability or desperation. Right? Not good at really, like I said, reading and thinking about these types of things, caught up in the moment. Right? His observations of humans is the same observation I have. That's why I can see where he's coming from, because I'm like, yeah, this is definitely the world we live in. This that catches people out is definitely the world we live in, because we live in a world where we were built to have God. We were built to have a relationship with God, where God leads us and guides us, because he knows our blind spots. He knows what the enemy's trying to do. He knows our ignorances, and he doesn't exploit them. The thing about God is he will protect us and he will teach us so that we, in the areas we're ignorant. The thing about enemies, it's the same thing. Like if you get into a relationship with a narcissistic type of person, or if you get into a relationship with a manipulative type of person, right? What is it that they do? They utilize your naivety against you. They'll utilize your ignorance against you. They won't tell you the areas that you're ignorant. They'll assess you, right? Like a predator does. They'll assess you and they'll utilize those things against you, so that it makes it more difficult for you to recognize the person that you're dealing with. It makes it more difficult for you to be able to do what you would do if you had that information, because if you had better information, if you had better understanding, you wouldn't make those decisions in the first place, right? That's exactly what the kingdom of darkness is banking on. Hello? That's why people are signing this contract, for goodness sake. Because for me, there's no way in God's green earth I could sign something like this. Just on a logical basis, right? But why would somebody? Because you've been reeled in. It's the same way the enemy always does it, right? It's the same way the enemy always does it. And even as I'm thinking about it, I have it in my brain how these types of situations go down, right? I'm having it in my brain right now, and then it's like, oh, you know how these guys are really good at sliding they're as good as sliding the contract and getting you to sign it as pickpocketers are. Because you'll be in a situation, we'll be in the room, you've gone for your personality test, you've done the graph, and this is amazing. We want you to come in and have your first session of auditing, which we now know all about that from yesterday's video. We want you to have your auditing, your first session, come in. Yeah, this will be great. This will be fun. And you come in, you go to your auditing session and whatnot and what have you. As you're sitting down, getting interested, they're telling you how excited they are to see you. And now it's trying to riz you, telling you all these stories. Next thing you know, as you're talking, just casually, there's a piece of paper on the table. You haven't noticed it. You're too busy looking at the e-meter. You're too busy getting comfortable, feeling excited. You've been wanting to deal with this stuff for so long, all this pain and trauma that you can see is affecting your life. In fact, you've thought so much about all the conversations that you had with these people when you were last here, and how excited you are to finally free yourself from your reactive mind, right? And then just as you're about to start, they say, oh yeah, sorry, before we start, we just need to get you to sign this quickly. It's just a formality, just to show that you are completely dedicated into what we are doing here. It's just symbolic of our dedication, to what we're doing here at Scientology, enabling people to live their best lives. All you have to do is just sign here and here. We'll sign this with you, then we can get straight into it. It's just a formality, really, just to show that you're committed and your dedication. And we have all of our members members do this ever since from the beginning. It's just kind of a tradition that we do here at Scientology. So yeah, if you could just do that. I'm just nearly finished setting up, and then we can get straight into your auditing. Oh, you've done that? Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to get my colleague to sign along with me as well, and then we can get straight into your first session. Make yourself comfortable. Could I get you some water or anything? You see, this is how I'm envisioning it in my brain, because it's how the Kingdom of Darkness does it. Just slips it in there, just slipped it in there. You didn't really think too much. You're too busy in the feels of like, oh yeah, I'm finally doing this. I'm excited to finally start working on this. Your brain is over here. The enemy loves to snag us with things while our focus is somewhere else. And then you just sign this contract, and all is well for a little while. All is well, and you're just doing some therapy and you're going back through stuff. And at first, it kind of makes sense. At first, it's working. By the time you realize that this is a scam, by the time you realize that this is destroying you, by the time you realize you want out, you start asking questions. The honeymoon phase is ended. That initial infatuation that you have, almost like a new relationship when you just initially are infatuated with somebody, right? And all this stuff, when that's all died down, right? When all of that's come down, your adrenaline's come down, dopamine ain't kicking the same way it was on day one, all of a sudden you're like, actually, I would like out, or you know what, I enjoyed this, but maybe it's not for me. You go to them thinking you're going to have some peaceful conversation and just separate as you would do in normal therapy in the rest of the world, or as you would do in other scenarios. Like, you know, this isn't working for me. I'm going to go. Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed what you guys are doing. Maybe I'll think about it another time. And then they hit you with it. They hit you with it. What do they hit you with? Oh, you signed a contract, darling. You signed I don't know where you think you're going. You think you're going somewhere? You signed a contract. You signed a contract, darling. So you're not going nowhere. There is nowhere that you are going right now, because you signed a contract to say that you are eternally dedicated. And then this is the part where you start thinking, oh no, but I didn't really mean that. You know, you said it was symbolic. Obviously, eternity. I'm not really going to be here for 1 billion years. It's like, well, but you. And this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and gals, everybody listening, is exactly the work of Satan. Because at that point, you can't do nothing now, because you've signed yourself on this contract. You didn't think about the ramifications. You were rizzed. You were too busy. Oh, it's just a formality. It's nothing serious. You don't even need to read it. It's just symbolic of your dedication to Scientology. We just want you to join in with us as a group and be a part of the family and do the whatever the freaking ceremony is. And now you're locked in. Now you're locked in, and now you're trapped, and now you can't get out. And not only are you just in this so-called symbolic, now you got to work, because you said you was doing employment. You said you was ready to, and also you said you was ready to do whatever the policies and whatever everything that we've asked you to just sign to do. Now you got to do all of those things, my friend. Yes, you do. And now you're trapped. Now you can't get out of it. Now you feel like a slave. Now you're horrified. And guess what? The Kingdom of Darkness doesn't care, because the Kingdom of Darkness did exactly what the Lord God requires it to do, which is to tell you the truth, give you a fair option and choice. Whatever you decide to do from that point is up to you, darling. It's up to you, darling. You now have the choice, because now you have been given what was your right to have. That's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. And so that is what happens with all of these types of things. That is how people get caught up. That's why it doesn't surprise me that people get caught up in these types of contracts, because yeah, the Kingdom of Darkness is truly crafty at getting us to agree to things that we don't want to actually agree to in the long run, but just trapping us soon enough. Because as soon as it happened, look at the presidency in America. Look at the presidency in America as a perfect case in point example for you, right? When Joe Biden was running for president, oh yeah, everybody, there was all these things that they were promising. All they needed was for Joe to get in office. And then now whatever they want to do is whatever they want to do. To hell with all the people, that all the promises that came out and all that. We see that in all politics all the time. They tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to utilize the free will that God gave you to put these people into places of power, just for you to then regret it after the fact. And then by the time you're regretting it, it's too late now. They have the power that they have. You're affected. You're the victim, and you can't get out of it. So let's think about that, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, this has been interesting. We're going to continue on our Scientology videos, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 9. If you've enjoyed this or you have any thoughts, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. There's so much stuff that I'm going through, so much stuff that I'm researching. I'm finding this fascinating and also heartbreaking in a lot of senses, because I really feel for people who are caught up in this. And that's why it's important to me not just to talk about their situation, but to get to the crux. Because I'm not somebody who's comfortable just talking about stuff that's bad and then just leaving it there. I'm like, how do we overcome this thing? How do we defeat this thing? So that's why I get to the bottom of it, so that if we're going to do something, we can rip it out at the root and not be caught up and caught out because we were ignorantly walking into a battle. We must walk into battles, guys, with wisdom, with an understanding. If there's an opportunity to get an understanding on your enemy before you attack, before you address them, then would you not want to take that opportunity? Because if life's a game, then we should play to win, right? God bless every single one of you guys watching this, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.